Hello, friends. It's Dr. Grinch. I'm here to read with you my personal book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now, today we're going to focus on how the Grinch changed from beginning, middle, and end. Do I change or am I the same mean old Grinch? Sometimes characters change through the story, and what we're going to look at are actions, words, and feelings of the Grinch to see if he changes. You might have some ideas in your head based off what you read yesterday on whether or not the Grinch changes. So let's start in the beginning. You ready? How the Grinch Stole Christmas. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. For Teddy Owens. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask me why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. Use your eagle eyes. Look at the illustration. What do you see? I see a frown, and his eyebrows are furrowed. Look at mine, furrowed. And his hands, sometimes when I'm mad, I put my hands in my pockets at my hips. Thinking of a word to describe him right now, his emotions, how is he feeling? Now I see that his eyebrows are furrowed and he has a frown and he's standing like this. So I can infer that he might be grumpy or grouchy. Grumpy. E, and sometimes Y sounds like E. Grumpy. Say beginning, grumpy, beginning, grumpy. Let's keep reading to find out what happens. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown. Oh, there's text evidence for how he's feeling. Grinchy frown. At the warm, lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Now remember, we're focusing on things that he says too. Now, it might not be what he says, because he could have said, and they're hanging their stockings. He could have been excited. But look what the author chose to say here in the text to tell us how he's feeling. He snarled with a sneer. I think he'd say that if he was feeling grumpy, not necessarily excited. Because the author would have chosen, and they're hanging their stockings, he exclaimed, or he said so excited. But the author chose he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled. There's more evidence from the text, how he's feeling, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow he knew. While the Who girls and boys would wake up bright and early, they'd rush for their toys, and then, oh, the noise! Oh, the noise! That's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise! Look how the author used all caps and an exclamation point. He's fed up. He's had enough. He is a grumpy Grinch. And then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on who pudding and rare who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. Oh, he's had enough. He is fed up with the Whos. And that say beginning. He's grumpy and he's fed up with the Whos. Look at all of those Whos Christmas. And then they do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. How does the Grinch feel about the Who singing? Wonder if the author's showing us some hints in the text. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. If he wants to stop it, does he like it? Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. Pause. We were in the beginning and he's just grumpy and he's complaining. He's fed up with the Whos. Now we're in the middle. Use your eagle eyes. Look at the illustration. What do you see? How is he feeling now? What does he look like? What's he doing? He's coming up with an idea. So he's thinking. That's what he's doing. He's thinking, say middle. Coming up with an idea. I'm going to write idea. And he looks. Hey, you know what? The Grinch looks excited about his idea. Excited. Cool. He changed a little bit. He was grumpy. Now he's excited. But why? He got a wonderful, awful idea. It can be wonderful and awful. Wonderful to him. Awful to who? I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat. And he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick! With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn to the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Get out!" And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care when he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once. For a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who's stockings all hung in a row. "These stockings!" he grinned. Remember, he's excited. He's happy. He's excited. He's got an idea. "These stockings," he grinned, "are the first things to go." Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorns, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. Look at his face. He's feeling sneaky and excited about his idea. He took the roast beefs. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. "And now," grinned the Grinch, "I will stuff up the tree." And the Grinch grabbed the tree, and he started to shove. When he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove, he turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there and then bring it back here." And this fib fooled the child. And he's clever. He's excited. He's got an idea. Sneaky little guy. Then he patted her head and got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh, pooh to the Who's. Say that with me. Pooh, pooh to the Who's. He was Grinch-ishly humming. "They're finding out now that Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, 'Boo! Hoo!' That's a noise," grinned the Grinch, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started low, and then it started to grow. What do you think it is? Remember from yesterday? How's he feeling? What do you see? Surprised. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so. But it was merry. Very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came! Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, didn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. Use your eagle eyes. How is he looking? He looks excited, but a different excited. He looks happy. He's not grumpy. He changed. He's now happy and excited. But in the middle, Mrs. Wilcoxon, you said he was excited. I thought he changed. Well, he's excited to trick the Who's. Now he's excited to do what? Let's read. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. He's excited to be with the Who's. Be with them. Okay, what I would like for you to do is to think, how would the Grinch start in the book? How did the Grinch start in the book? Then in the middle, he changed from grumpy to excited and sneaky. Then at the end, how did he change? Write it down and send a picture to your teacher. Thanks for reading with me, friends.